You'll have to take notes on a sheet of paper. Okay, so properties of, yeah, or you can just put them on the bottom of your quiz where they belong. Okay, either way. Your 6 properties of parallelogram. Somebody give me one. Opposite sides are congruent to opposite angles are congruent. Three, opposite sides are parallel. What else? Yep, one pair of opposite sides is both congruent and parallel. The diagonals bisect each other. And I was really in a good mood when I corrected your quizzes because I gave you 1 point for every one you had correct on that extra credit. And number 6, the last one that most of us missed. There you go, consecutive angles are supplementary. All right, so the reason why we need to get these down is because we are going to learn 3 different types of parallelograms. We're going to talk about the rhombus, we're going to talk about squares, and we're going to talk about rectangles. Okay, and all 3 of those are parallelograms. Okay, so they're going to have some certain properties that are true for them, but these 6 will also be true for them, okay, because they are parallelograms. Okay, so a rhombus. Okay, the definition of a rhombus is it has 4 congruent sides. Okay, and it's a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. Okay. So if we talk about properties of it, first we're going to talk about all 3, I guess. Okay, a rectangle is a parallelogram that has 4 right angles. Okay, so what was a rhombus?
4 congruent sides.
It was a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. What's a rectangle? With 4 right angles, yep. And then a square, okay, has properties of both a rectangle and a rhombus because it has 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. Okay, so if we look at this guy, what's this? All we can say is that it's a rhombus because it's got 4 congruent sides. Number 2 is not a square, it is a rectangle. A square has to have 4 congruent sides. Okay, a rectangle is going to have their opposite sides congruent like a parallelogram and 4 right angles, but definitely not a square. Number 3 is a square because it has 4 right angles and, well, yeah, but also 4 congruent sides. It's got to have both of those. And in number 4, how can you tell that it's a rectangle? The sides are parallel, and I've got, if this is a right angle, they've all got to be right angles because, why? If I have one right angle, how do I know that the rest of them are right angles? Okay, opposite, so that would make this one a right angle. And then consecutive are supplementary. So if this is 90 and they add up to 180, this one has to be 90, yep. Okay, so then it kind of tells you a little family tree. Okay, squares are both rectangles and rhombuses. All three of them are parallelograms. Okay. All right, now we're getting into some properties. In a rhombus, you have all 6 properties of a parallelogram, okay, plus the diagonals are perpendicular, okay, and the diagonals bisect each pair of opposite angles. Okay, so if I have a rhombus and I draw a diagonal, 7 is going to be congruent to 8, 3 is going to be congruent to 4. Okay, since it's a parallelogram, what else do I know? What else is 8 congruent to? If it's a parallelogram. Not 4. 3. Why? What kind of angles are those? They're alternate interior angles, yep. So that's kind of comes into play on your assignment today. Okay, is that you also have to know that alternate interior angles are going to be congruent. If I numbered these, I've got what, 8? If I go 9, 10, 11, and 12, what are 9, 10, 11, and 12? Well, they're vertical angles, but what did we just learn above this? They're perpendicular, so 9, 10, 11, and 12, what are my angle measures? 90 degrees, yep. Okay, so to tell if something is a rhombus, you have 6 properties of a parallelogram. This is how you do parallelogram. Plus, what? Huh? The what? What about it? The diagonals are perpendicular. And what else? What does? The diagonals. You got to know what does these things. Okay? So a lot about diagonals today. The diagonals are perpendicular and the diagonals bisect opposite angles. Okay, you're going to have to know all of these properties. So some of you are being good boys and girls and writing them down. Some of you are ignoring me and praying that you get a good grade on this next test. Just saying. Maybe Santa will bring you a passing grade. Okay, so if this is 38, what's 1? How do you know? Because you know this is 38, right? And this is 38, so then this has to be 38. So angle 1 is 38. How can I figure out what angle 2 is then? Subtract it from? Yep. What do I get?
Wait, how do you know that?
Because it's a triangle. It's always good to, you will see many, many triangles within your parallelograms, and you've always got to remember that the angles add up to 180. 104? Okay, and if angle 2 is 104, what is angle 3? Why?
Opposite angles.
Opposite angles are congruent, yep. Okay, so 180 minus 73 is 107, but does that give me, you got to cut it in half. What is it? Thank you. Talk louder and slower so I can. So 53.5 is angle 2. What's that make angle 1?
53.5.
Why? It doesn't have anything to do with a linear pair. Linear pairs that up to 180. Why are 1 and 2 equal? Farouk, you might want to stay awake for this stuff. Come on, look at your properties, guys. Because it's a diagonal and it bisects the angles. Okay, so then 3 is 53.5 and 4 is, oh, thank you. You guys are killing me today. Wake up. It's Monday. We got 2 days. There's exactly 100 days left of school. There are 18 Mondays left. 18 Mondays. That's all we got to get through. Actually, I think that sounds like not very much. We have 1 for sure because Memorial Day. Yep. All right. Okay, rectangles. Okay, what did we say a rectangle was? A parallelogram with 4 90 right angles. Yep. Okay, so now in a rectangle, the diagonals are congruent. Okay, diagonals will be congruent in a rectangle.
Wait, isn't that already a thing?
No, diagonals bisect each other, but they're not necessarily congruent. Okay, so, rectangles. You've got your 6 properties of parallelograms. How do you know if it's a rectangle? 4 right angles. And what did we just learn about its diagonals? Diagonals are congruent. Yeah, you don't, it's supposed to be a parallelogram. And it was a beautiful parallelogram in my mind until you brought attention to it. So the diagonals are congruent. Okay, so I have a rectangle, QRST. So I would draw a rectangle, QRST. Tells me that QS, which is a diagonal, okay, is 4x minus 7, and RT, which is a diagonal, is 2x plus 11. How can I figure out what x is?
Well, they're congruent to equal to each other.
Yes, because diagonals are congruent, we can set them equal to each other. So 4x minus 7 equals 2x plus 11 minus my 2x, add my 7, so 2x equals 18, x equals 9. Find the value of x and the length of each diagonal. Yep, so if we plug it in, we get 36 minus 7, which is 29. And this one has to be 29 because they are congruent. Whoa. Okay, and then we got to talk a little bit about squares. No, it continues. For you guys, I just have to pull it up here. Well, okay, so let's talk about a square. Okay, a square has 4 congruent sides, which makes it a... Okay, so we know it's a parallelogram. Okay, but if it has 4 congruent sides, that makes it a rhombus. Okay, it has 4 right angles, which also makes it a rectangle, since we're talking about squares. Okay, so if we talk about squares, okay, it has the 6 properties of parallelograms. Okay, since it has 4 congruent sides, it has all the properties of a rhombus, which are what? You were talking. Diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, what else? Diagonals bisect opposite angles. Yep, because squares have 4 congruent sides. Yes. Okay, and it has 4 right angles, which makes it a rectangle. And what did we learn about rectangles? The diagonals are congruent. Okay, so lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of properties. Okay, that's what this chapter is. It's properties. Do you know your properties or do you not know your properties? I would study your properties.